In the 1950s, VTOL aircraft were a competition between military powers. It was the idea of a plane that could take off in tight spots without a runway, or at least a short runway. Before the introduction of the P-1127, that later became the famous Harrier, there were many aircraft that tried their best to develop the VTOL concept. America was one of several countries that took a stab at vertical takeoff aircraft. One of the most audacious and also most bizarre was that of the Ryan X-13 Vertijet. The Vertijet was a design from Ryan Aeronautical, a company mostly known for trainers and scout aircraft. The Vertijet was quite the step into the unknown for the company, but they were very much willing to give it a go. However, the Vertijet could not progress beyond 2 prototypes, and a variety of issues during testing meant that the concept was never taken seriously. The idea for the Ryan X-13 came from the engineers at the company, wondering if its FR-1 fireborne fighter aircraft could take off vertically. So as early as 1947, Ryan was in fact awarded a contract to investigate a vertically launched jet fighter by the U.S. Navy's Bureau of Aeronautics. This contract was also awarded long before the P-1127 had even made its first flight. The idea behind the X-13 was that it could take off and land at a submarine base. After spending a few years conducting remote-controlled VTOL tethered rig tests, Ryan was soon awarded an Air Force contract in 1953 to develop a fully fledged VTOL aircraft. The aircraft was then given the designation of X-13, and the company built 2 prototypes to conduct its testing with. What they had come up with as a 7.14 meters long aircraft, just large enough for a single-seat cockpit with a tailing seat. Power was all provided by Rolls-Royce and its Avon turbojet. The aircraft was tiny, with a wingspan of just 6.40 meters from its delta wing, capped off with flat end blades. On the nose of the X-13 was a hook on the underside and a short pole to gauge the distance to its docking trailer. Testing of the Vertijet could begin in 1955, although this could be a conventional form. The first prototype of the aircraft was initially fitted with temporary landing gear and made its first horizontal flight on December 10, 1955. The aircraft would then make a horizontal to vertical conversion at altitude, and then back to horizontal flight again. So far, it was so good, and soon the Vertijet was finally fitted with its tail-mounted framework that could hold it in a vertical altitude on the ground. Hooking practice was then conducted. The second prototype could make a flight on April 11, 1957, vertically from the vertically raised trailer, then transition back to horizontal flight, and then back again. The aircraft also successfully landed on its trailer following the completion of that flight. The little jet fighter was also shown off in Washington, D.C. on July 28th and 29th, when it crossed the Potomac River and then landed at the Pentagon. So it sounds like the concept was working, right? Well, despite some promise, there was never any serious prospect of the X-13 entering operational service. In fact, it could see testing for less than 2 years before retirement. For starters, there was no real operational requirement for the X-13. The Air Force didn't have a need for it, and the British Hawker Siddeley Harrier would eventually offer a simpler solution to the VTOL question. Plus, the idea of what was soon dubbed a tail-sitting aircraft offered a massive compromise over the payload and range of the aircraft. The small X-13 would never have the capacity to carry the weapons load of the more conventional Harrier, something that would blight any operational use of the aircraft. The Vertijet also proved a nightmare to try and dock with its trailer, and visibility was poor. The aircraft was, in other words, simply too dangerous. It turned out that vectoring the thrust of the aircraft to the ground rather than the whole aircraft was an easier way of creating a VTOL jet. And thus, after September 1957, the two prototype X-13s were finally retired. Amazingly, both survive today, with 546019 on display at the San Diego Air and Space Museum and 541620 on display at the National Museum of the United States Air Force in Ohio. These two remarkable machines remind us of the extraordinary efforts of various countries to create a VTOL jet aircraft.